Hello, beautiful souls. It's Kat from Elevate, and welcome to my channel where we talk about recovering from toxic relationships and regaining self love and self esteem. Today's topic is going to be why gaslighting is dangerous. And before I get into the topic, please subscribe if you haven't already by pressing the bell icon so you can get alerted whenever I put out new videos. This is going to be one of my podcast videos in my podcast video series, and we're going to be talking about why gaslighting is dangerous. Just one quick note also, in February, my new course is coming out, a digital course about recovering from toxic relationships. It's a really in depth course. So look out on my website, or if you want, sign up for email alerts and you'll get updated when that course launches, which should be on Valentine's Day. I thought that was appropriate for anybody who is getting over a toxic relationship and is not with someone. It gives you something great to do on Valentine's Day and start your healing recovery journey. So today's topic is gaslighting, and I've done a video about some tactics that toxic people will use. Gaslighting is one of those tactics. I'll link that video here too. If you haven't seen it, it's a really good video that people have really liked. So check that video out later. But gaslighting specifically is a really dangerous type of manipulation because often we don't know that it's happening to us. And I think that's why it's very dangerous, because you really just don't realize it's happening and it's very insidious. So you're living your life, you're with this toxic person, let's say, but you're not quite sure if they are toxic maybe, and sort of these weird things start happening, things that make you wonder what's going on. I feel like something's not right, but I really can't pinpoint what it is. um the nature of gaslighting is that you're confused and you don't actually know what's going on. So in my opinion, that's why it's so dangerous, because it's not detectable until it's too late, and then you finally realize what's been going on when you look back. It happens slowly over time, and it's also a betrayal of trust, because gaslighting can only happen if you trust the person who's manipulating you. So it's sort of like a double whammy, because you will feel betrayed when you look back and realize that you were gaslighted for so long, and you have to trust a person for them to be able to gaslight. If you didn't trust that person, they wouldn't be able to have that psychological hold on you. So there's this piece that doesn't get talked about too much, which is that you were close enough to this person to trust them, and that trust was shattered, and that's a betrayal. And that piece by itself even hurts, like just a betrayal of trust by itself is painful for anyone. So abusers, and toxic people will use gaslighting as a type of manipulation, even if they're not consciously aware that they're doing it. And I've talked on here before about some abusers are aware, and other abusers, I think, are not aware of what they're doing. They're just programmed that to be the way they are. To them, being abusive um, is just like a daily occurrence. Like, it's just the way they are. They don't know any other way. And whether it's due to mental illness or it's due to them just not having good values or morals or ethics, whatever the case may be, some of these abusive people, I think, just think this is who I am, and this is me. So they're not always necessarily, I think, out to get you per se. I think some of them are out to get you. Some of them know exactly what they're doing, and they're very malevolent, and they are um pointed in their actions and their abuse. But I think there's a lot of them, and my experience is most of them that I've met are just this way. Like, they don't know any different. They don't know. Like, they kind of know that, like, they're hurting people, but they'll come up with justifications in their mind on why that's okay, because their mind is programmed to do that, to justify, to make excuses for themselves. This is like how an abusive person has learned to cope with life. Maybe they've had trauma when they were growing up. They've learned to cope by justifying, probably because they had a parent or someone influencing them who also did those things. So, like, a lot of this is learned behavior. These people are not like just, you know, uh, immediately they're born this way. Like, I think a lot of people have learned the behavior. Yes, there are some, people that can be born with certain deficits and certain personality disorders. But I feel like a lot of it is learned behavior. So if you're taught this by someone else, then you carry on that behavior. You learn this, you're going to grow up and do the same thing. And unless you realize at some point that you are toxic to other people and that, you know, it's bad and you want to make a change. But a lot of these people just don't get to that level of self awareness, unfortunately. Um, So, just some examples about gaslighting, which I know if you're on my channel, you've probably been gaslighted by someone at some point. You can start noticing that your partner or, whoever the person is acting differently than usual. And yet, when you ask them what's wrong, they say everything is fine, or they say I'm fine. But meanwhile, they're acting, cold towards you. Maybe they're acting passive aggressive. Maybe they're not answering your calls anymore, or they're not calling as much. Maybe they're ignoring your text messages. And you're asking them like, "Hey, like, what's going on? Like, why have things changed?" And they say, "Nothing's changed." And that's happened to me. And you say to yourself like, what's going on? Like, why is this person saying nothing's changed when clearly something has changed because their behavior completely changed? People's behavior doesn't change so dramatically unless something has changed. So, you are going down the right path by asking questions to this person, and yet they're making you doubt your own perception of reality. Other examples, like, you overhear them on the phone saying something, but they deny ever saying it. Or they tell you you're being too dramatic or overreacting. Maybe they say you're too sensitive when you bring up, an objection to the fact that they were um, insulting to you. Maybe they said something insulting to you and you objected to it and said, "Hey, like, why did you say that about me? That was rude or disrespectful." And they say you're too dramatic or you're too sensitive. I had a situation where I said to someone who was ignoring my texts, and I didn't understand why. Ultimately, the person got back to me and said, "Why are you bringing this negativity on me?" So you can see how that's like a flip of this person's passive aggressively trying to manipulate me by ignoring me for no good reason, and being cruel. And now they're going to flip it and say, "Why are you bringing this negativity on me?" Meanwhile, I wasn't being negative at all. I was just completely confused and also, hurt that was happening in that situation. So that's another example of a toxic behavior. Some other examples of gaslighting would be you find evidence of them cheating or lying, and they still lie to your face about it. So maybe you saw the text message where they were blatantly cheating, and they're like, "Oh no, you misunderstood," or "That was sent to me by accident." They'll come up with some excuse that it wasn't them and you're wrong. That's gaslighting. Or they'll tell you that your behavior is why they're abusive. So they blame shift and justify their behavior using your prior behavior as the reason they are the way they are. So a lot of times these people will turn things around. It's such a classic thing, and if you kind of get used to looking at this while you're interacting with people, you'll see who does this. And it's literally like a very childish type of rationale. So it's like, I did this because you did this to me, and that's why I'm doing this abusive or toxic thing. That's essentially, they're not going to say that, but that's like what their implication is. It's your fault because you did X. And there's no excuse for abusive behavior. You can't blame other people. Like, it's a very immature type of reasoning that when someone does that, but you'll see it happen with toxic people and abusive people, that they will turn it around and blame you because of some other random thing that you did. Now they'll say, that's why I did this, as their justification, as their excuse for their abusive behavior. They can be dismissive of your feelings in general, as if they don't care. So you'll find that anything you're kind of bringing up that bothers you, that may be an objection to their abusive behavior, especially those types of conversations, they're going to dismiss your feelings. And meanwhile, they say they love you, or they keep telling you they love you all the time. That's gaslighting, because it's two opposing things. And gaslighting causes cognitive dissonance. I believe that's the opposition of two different um opposing thoughts, so two opposites, where you get confused because you think the person is loving you, but then also they're doing these weird, toxic, abusive types of things, or things that are even just like bordering on abusive. So it might not be like overt. Like, I've had people say things to me that weren't like overtly abusive, but they were insulting in an underhanded type of way. And if you weren't necessarily really paying attention, it could probably just like fly past you. But um so it may not be like overtly abusive. They may not, necessarily call you names. Like, they may not call you um like, they may not curse at you. They may not overtly call you insulting, derogatory names. Like, for instance, when I dated the covert narcissist, I wasn't overtly abused by his words, but there were these underlying kind of like passive aggressive things he would say that would be insulting, or would make me realize that there was no future, that he didn't really love me. So, and at the same time, of course, he was saying, I love you, I love you. So, this is gaslighting, and it can get very, very confusing. And that's the point, because abusers want to confuse you so that they can control you, right? And I've talked about that in other videos as well. So, something's wrong and you can't exactly pinpoint what it is, and you start to doubt your perceptions of reality. This whole process of what they're saying and doing makes you doubt the validity of your own feelings, and it makes you doubt the validity of your own perception of what's going on around you. And again, this can only happen if you trust the person, because otherwise you would just not even really let this emotionally affect you. So it's very hard, because it's probably someone who's close to you, like a partner or a very close friend or family member. And you begin to wonder to yourself, like, are you not seeing what everyone else is seeing? Like, why is this person seemingly seeing a different reality than you are seeing? But what you don't realize at the time is their reality is skewed. They're not actually seeing reality. And this is typical, I think, of abusers, and what I've read and know about abusers, that, they have a very skewed perception of reality. And also anyone who's mentally ill, they have a very skewed perception of reality. So their idea of reality is different. They really probably believe a lot of these things they're saying to you in their own mind. They believe these things. So your reality may be in line with what everyone else in the world like the real reality, right? But their reality is what they've made up. And unfortunately, they start to make you doubt your own sense of reality. So because they keep trying to convince you essentially that their idea of reality is what's real. So this is a psychological manipulation, and they're using it again to control you by causing confusion, self-doubt, causing you to doubt your judgment, making you think you can't perceive correctly. And you can't have a strong sense of thinking clearly if you're confused. So, creating self doubt within you makes you more easily controlled. They've broken you down, and you might start thinking like you're going crazy because you're wondering, like, what's really real? But that's because this person that you're with is not seeing what's actually real. And they've been over time, the longer this goes on, it's even worse and worse. The more broken down you become, the less likely to think clearly you become. So your thought process becomes muddled. Your thought process becomes confusing to even yourself. And that's why I say sometimes you might think you're going crazy because you're like, I can't even think straight. Like, I don't even know what's real anymore. Um, it can feel that way. Oh, and I'll give you another example of gaslighting that happened to me that I just thought of. In one relationship, with the one with the covert narcissist, he basically said to me one week, I should have bought you a ring to get married, essentially, to get engaged. And then the next week, he said to me, I just told you that because I just wanted to shut you up. And then the week after that, he said to me, I just said that I said that to shut you up because I was angry. So you can see from this example the flipping. Like one week it's, I should have bought you a ring. I wanted to marry you. The next week is I didn't really mean that. Like that's what he was saying. And the week after that, he's like, I didn't really mean what I said when I said I didn't mean that. Now that is like totally mind boggling. Like at that point, I knew I had to leave because I was like, I don't even know what's real anymore. Like, is this person, does this person want to marry me? Do they not want to marry me? It seems like they don't, because why would they be flip flopping all over the place with all these different ideas? They would just have one consistent idea if they really felt that they wanted to build a life with me. And that was pretty much like, I think that was the turning point for me, where I wound up deciding that I was not going to stay with him anymore, because from one week to the next, if you're going to change your mind like that and be all over the place, then to me that's not real love. So you can feel overwhelmed and like you're trapped in a place and cannot get out. Like I've felt like that before, and you might feel so much confusion depending upon how long they've been psychologically manipulating you. Over time, this can really break someone psychologically so that they become much less able to make clear and healthy decisions. You need to have a sense of your own agency and your own power to make clear decisions. And you need to believe you have a grasp on reality to make clear decisions. Gaslighting over time takes away your confidence to think clearly, to perceive proper reality, and to take the correct actions because it breeds self doubt. And that is why gaslighting is so dangerous, because it takes away your ability to think clearly. It breaks you down psychologically so that you're so confused, you can't make healthy decisions, you're not sure what's real, and it takes a long time to rebuild yourself after that, because you feel trapped sort of in this scenario until you get yourself out, and then you have to start rebuilding your own confidence and your own ability to have agency, to have your own personal power, to make decisions on your own, and know that, like, have the confidence that those decisions you're making are actually good decisions and clear decisions, because you wound up learning to doubt yourself over a period of time. Now you have to build back up this confidence that, yes, I am thinking clearly. Yes, I don't need to doubt myself. Yes, I do see reality and I'm perceiving things that are real. It's not skewed, and of course working with like a professional therapist, also talking to your friends and family, whoever you are, that you have supporting you around you, a supportive group, that's going to help too, because as you bounce things off of these people, they're going to tell you what's real and what's not real too. Like, you have an ability to bounce things off of people that you're close with to kind of um, validate that you are in touch with reality, that it wasn't you, that it was this toxic person who had their own skewed perspective of what's real, and they were trying to convince you. It's almost like they have a fantasy in their mind of what's real and what's not real, and they then try to convince you that that fantasy is real. So it's like you have to separate yourself from that person, from that reality, and really just focus on your own real perceptions of what's happening. And again, any professional or friends and family can help validate what's actually real for you too. So that will help build your confidence up until you get to the point where you are, back to the way you were before, which was someone who could have a confidence in their own decision making and in their own feelings about reality. And so you'll eventually build yourself back up to that place as long as you don't have this toxic person around you. But gaslighting is dangerous because it doesn't always show up right away, and it happens gradually over time. And I just wanted to talk about that today because it's something I've discussed a little bit, but never really went in depth with it. So I hope this video helped you and you enjoyed it. Again, please subscribe, press the bell icon to be notified of any new videos. And if you are getting through a breakup right now, I did also just release a video that I'll link here to how to get over a breakup. And there's a free breakup guide, 10-page breakup guide link below in this video and also that one. You can start with that. And then my digital course, like a full in-depth 6-part course, is coming out in February. So until next time.